We are now.
All right. Shabbat shalom, everyone. How's everybody doing? We're doing this forum that we normally do at this time. We're doing it live here from Tennessee, from Booker T. Washington State Park. And I'm standing up and I'm in a different room and I got people staring at me, so it's a little bit different than normal. Yeah, Jeremy. And I have some secrets in answering some of these questions sometimes. Usually I just text Jeremy and I'm like, what's the answer? What's the answer? But now I can't do that because he's sitting right here. So anybody that's online, if you want to put in chat anything you want to talk about, we normally just talk about difficult subjects, sometimes controversial subjects or whatever. Things that you just have to reason with logic and not with emotion or with what you believe or you were taught to believe, but just simply with logic, and trying to discover, what was going on in a particular place or book or time or whatever. So, and I always have something to talk about, but I always want to see what everybody else has to say. I would say this though, one of the controversial topics that I think that we should talk about here at the beginning is the idea of controversial topics, right? Sometimes you can get so infatuated with controversial topics that sort of becomes your idol, that you're trying to find the latest and greatest revelation that you couldn't see if you read it in English, but you could see it in Hebrew or Greek, or trying to find the next discovered lie that was taught to you by the denominational hierarchy or whatever it is. And that can become an idol in and of itself, to where you've got hungry people and hurting people right down the street from you and you're not helping them out, but you can quote Psalm 24 in perfect Hebrew, right? Well, that doesn't do you any good and it doesn't do them any good. So we have to remember that when we're going after these things, when we're looking to see what it is that we've missed in our regular upbringing, whether Protestant or Catholic or Orthodox or atheistic humanist worldview, we're doing that for a purpose. And the purpose is to make sure that we know correct truth so that we can better hang out with the Father, that we can get to be with him, be in his presence, because basically the idea of eternal life is being in the presence of the Father forever, right? Amen. And how many people want to be in his presence forever? Amen. Me. Now, let's flip it around. How many people does he want to be in his presence with forever? There's a lot less, right? If I'm gonna invite people over to my house and I really don't like hanging out with you for a long period of time and it's gonna be a 4-hour thing, I'm not gonna invite you, right? If you need a shirt on your back, I'll give it to you. If you need some food, I'll feed you, but I'm not inviting you to the most important day of my life if we're not compatible. Well, imagine eternally, is the Father going to invite you and me to hang out with him forever if we're always fighting against what he's doing, or we're always getting closer to certain aspects of what he's about but never really getting closer to him? So, arguing doctrines, yes. Yeah. And it's real easy to have an argumentative spirit. You're just arguing all the time with somebody. And have you ever done that, maybe fast, where you're arguing and you realize they might have the upper hand on you? You switch it a little bit, you move the goalposts, and so you can win that argument or something like that. So I'm sure none of you have done that. I just read about that in a book once. So when we're discussing these things, remember, you can go in the middle of something and then realize halfway through that you're wrong, and that's okay. That's okay, because and then you might not acquiesce right away. I could get it out, and then come back and share your thoughts. But anyway, so that can be a little bit of a controversial topic. Always trying to up the next person on a new controversial topic. But does anybody have anything they want to talk about or questions to ask? Even you guys on the internet, in the chat there, you can throw it in there. Anybody at all? Yes, sir.
Can you explain why we don't use words like Lord and God?
Can I explain why we don't use words like Lord and God? Sure. Yeah, so in my mind, there are a different reason why we don't use those two words. Basically, the word Lord is, that's the translated word in English of the Hebrew word Baal or Baal. Okay, so Baal means Lord in Hebrew, or vice versa. And so there's another word for master, I say, in Hebrew, and that is the word Adon. And so normally when referring to deity, or deity is the wrong word, when referring to Elohim or Malakim or Meleks, which is Elohim being powerful ones or mighty ones or shining ones, Malakim being messengers and Meleks being kings. If the Hebrew Bible refers to those and they are a positive one of those, meaning of the tribes of Israel or of the purveyors of Yahweh's armies or whatever it is, then the word Adon is used. If you're referring to pagan Elohim or pagan Meleks or pagan Malakim, then the word Baal is used. So they both kind of mean Lord or Master, but it seems that there's a dividing line on which one is used. So since in English we translate Baal as Lord, and Adon does get translated a little bit that way too, but it has kind of like quote unquote the good connotation, then I stay away from the word Lord, unless I'm just talking to someone who has no concept about what I just told you. And in that case, I will speak to them about that. God, on the other hand, is a little bit more interesting because in and of itself, its definition matches with Elohim fairly good, meaning we have uppercase G God would mean the God, lowercase g gods would mean, maybe demonic entities that think they're gods or are up over certain regions or whatever. And that does fit a little bit if you go with Ha Elohim. The word ha in the beginning of a word in Hebrew just means the. It makes it a definite article. It makes it a definite thing. So when you're saying Ha Elohim, that could be construed as capital G God, where just Elohim could be lowercase g God. So in that way they match. The problem lies in two areas. One is that the word God comes with so much Greek Western baggage. So to say, if you want to get into another controversial topic, is Yeshua God? Is Yeshua Elohim? Those are two different things. Is Yeshua God in the Western mindset means, is he Yahweh? But if you say, is Yeshua Elohim, that doesn't necessarily mean, is he Yahweh? That means, is he a mighty one? Or you could say, is he Ha Elohim? Is he the mighty one? You could push it there so you have a little bit more clarity there. So there's that distinction. Also, you have the Germanic word Gott, which was the highest of the pantheon in the German tribes when they were Catholicized. And so the word God got incorporated into the Germanic, which then goes into English, because English is part German. And so while we don't have any intrinsic evidence that the word God comes from the word Gott, we do have intrinsic evidence that, and this is another word I steer clear of, gospel gospel comes from the words Gott's spell, right? Spell meaning a curse or to cast an incantation on. So gospel means Gott's spell. So I don't refer to the four gospels. I say the good news is, it's a little more cumbersome to say, but the good news of Matthew, the good news, because the word there in the Greek, our Greek scholar here, evangelion means the healing and beneficial message. So good news matches with the healing and beneficial message more than God's spell does. Yes, ma'am.
How about the one of the 12 tribes of Israel? We always say Gad, but it's actually pronounced God.
You can't say that now. No.
In Hebrew, God means the lucky man.
The lucky man.
The lucky man.
Yeah.
That's one of the tribes. Guy's name is Luck.
Right. So yeah. And so that's why I made the distinction. We see etymologically where gospel comes from gospel. We don't see etymologically where God comes from got, although we think it does. So just because a word sounds like another word doesn't mean it is. That's where Hyslop, Alexander Hyslop, in his book, he got into some trouble by, hey, this word sounds like this, so these two must be, this one must come from that one. And that's where he wrote a lot of good stuff, but because he did that quite a few times in his book, everybody kind of discounted his whole book, which they shouldn't have. But anyway, so you can't just do the sound of it, but yeah. Yes, sir, Daniel.
Can you, in your own words, share what the differences are between the Yahad and other movements like Messianic movement, and the independent Messianic?
I thought this was just an hour program. I would say this. I would say that let's just kind of define what I know. I mean, you guys would define it better than me, the Yahad movement. And then I think by defining that, it will be apparent what's different from the other movements. The Yahad, well, Jackson, what did you, when you were creating the Yahad, what was your mindset?
Well, the word Yahad is used in Scripture. How good and when brothers can something in unity, something
Dwell together.
Unity is Yahad, and it's used in the Dead Sea Scrolls and also in Scripture to designate a community of people. And so we take that and go back to the first century and we look at how that movement was described. And I thought maybe later sometime I would read from Snyder how he describes this movement. And his words are what I wanted to put into effect. And I think one of the main things here, if you have a brother, you need to travel, you go to this brother's house, he has to keep you for a few days, you can take anything you need from him. It's a communal movement. Whatever you need. So, when Joshua sends his disciples out, where do you think they go? They go to Yahad, people in Yahad. They can stay there for a certain amount of time, preach the gospel in the city, and get whatever they need from the host. So in a way, I fail to say communist, but I will say communal living. That's just one aspect of what God is. So, as you said, it's going to take an hour to go through the rest of it. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that the idea is that structure is correct, that it's a communal thing, that everybody is a family, that you would do things for each other, but then yet there is a tradition passed down, there is an authority, there is a set standard that's supposed to be followed. I think it's foolish to think that that can be otherwise. I think ideologically everybody wants to have no rules and no walls, and and everybody's just going to tiptoe through the tulips, and that's great, except for free will, right? So then, free will occurs. So then there has to be, even the Acts talks about the tradition that's passed down. You don't just come in and do what you're going to do. I don't just come in and do what I'm going to do. Like, I've ran organizations before. I was the top person, and I didn't just come in and do what I wanted to do. I spoke to everybody. I spoke to the leaders, and we came to an agreement about what we thought would be best. And even if I still thought my idea would have been better, it wouldn't be if everybody's not on board with it. So then, what do I want? Do I want to show that my idea is better, or do I want to get in with the community and let's move forward together as a team? And I think that's maybe what Jackson's saying there, is that everybody wants to move forward as a team here. And so then you have the elders, you have the leaders making decisions and doing this and that, but nobody's out just doing their own thing. Everybody's moving progressively towards, towards getting closer to the Father.
What we have foundational documents. They are new translations I did of books that the church has put away, or the emperor had burned, something like that. Can just come out lately.
Jackson, can you turn on your mic when you're talking? Or you don't have a mic? Okay. They're having trouble hearing you.
I know.
Just speak a little louder.
We have foundational documents that we use. One's the teaching of the 12 apostles. It's also called the Didache, the rules for apostles and overseers.
Yeah.
There's the communion from them today.
Yes,
Another
earlier.
Is the Epistle of Barnabas. Barnabas is trying to put the movement back together after Jerusalem was destroyed, and he calls them from wherever they're scattered, brings them together, and shows them a new interpretations of the Torah. Prophecy, there's some prophecy there is very important, etc. But we use it as the Acts of the Apostles. That is, Peter is on a journey, and his secretary is taking notes for a period of time, years. His secretary, Clement, writes down everything Peter does, everything he says. It's an amazing book. I've had so many people let me know that it was life-changing for them. And we use, as I mentioned before, Philo's description of the Essenes, primarily his. They're held in very high esteem at the time. One of the differences is we've got Judaism. People think all Judaism is rabbinical Judaism, but it's not. Actually, the Yahad is diametrically different than rabbinical Judaism in that instead of one person ruling from the top, it's a democratic society. All decisions are made by democratic vote, and that has made all the difference. Everybody has a piece of it. There's ownership for everyone. But other than reading these things to you, I'll leave it at that.
Sure.
I hope that you don't have these books I'm talking about. I can send you an e-copy of them, or you can buy a printed copy. You won't be disappointed.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a quick overview. It's probably just a few pages. The Didache is very succinct, and it's just one of the, it's the first document we have of church structure or assembly structure, Yahad structure, and that just gives a good overview of just basically how they thought and what was expected of the people. So even if you don't want to do every single one of those, that's a good one to start with, for sure. Yes, ma'am. What's that?
You said the first three rules.
Nice. Go ahead.
I think Snyder can make some others talk about teaching younger and some of the days around groups. I don't know that we structure here for the mentoring or whatever you use there. And could you comment on that?
Well, I'm not in the Messianic movement as far as the proper Messianic movement, so I don't know what the structure is there. But anytime you have an elder, whether male or female, then they should be speaking into the lives of the younger males and females in that group, no matter what, no matter if it's a Messianic group or an Okian group or whatever it is. So yeah, definitely. And
Do you think it should be set aside time weekly, monthly, or
I think that would depend.
whenever? Okay.
I think that would depend upon the assembly, right? And what that particular local assembly has decided. It's going to be different among each group. It's not always going to, the glove is not going to fit every hand there. So that's local leadership. Yes, ma'am.
This might be going in a little bit different direction, but that is my end. I was able to go to the land of Israel in spring. And I was wondering, kind of related to the Yahad as well, but I was wondering if you could comment on who Israel is as related specifically to Romans 25 and 26, and I read that, so that you may not claim to be wiser than you are, brothers and sisters. I want you to understand this mystery. Our needs come upon part of Israel until the whole number of the Gentiles has come in. So all Israel will be saved. As it is written down, Zion will come to deliver, he will banish ungodliness from Jacob, and this is my covenant with them, and I take away their sins. So just maybe when I say who is Israel not geographically, but has that changed? How does the Yahad fit in?
I thought this was only an hour program. Yeah, so biblically, Israel is different per the author. We got to get out of this mindset of thinking that one human author wrote all the books of the Bible. And we don't think that. And we know that there's 40 authors and 66 books and blah, 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 blah. But we still think one guy wrote it all. And every time the word is used, the same meaning is meant, right? So that's not true. I mean, we know that when we say Israel at the very beginning of the collection of books, it is the 12 tribes. And I could even make a good argument that it wasn't. But anyway, that's probably pretty accepted. Then you go further into the collection of books, and Israel starts to mean the what's referred to as the 10 tribes, and they're starting to take on a different name, Ephraim, the largest of those 10 tribes. So then Israel means something different because now you're excluding the southern kingdom. Then right there, Paul is talking about all of Israel, but he's got to be speaking hyperbole because not every single individual from Israel rejected the Messiah. So he can't mean all of the northern and southern kingdom individuals, because there are northern and southern kingdom individuals by his own testimony, himself included, that have not rejected the Messiah. I was talking with Matthew last night about we can get into reading books and we just get caught up in this literal interpretation of every single thing, right? Well, that can't be literal there in Romans because the guy saying it himself is not rejected. So I think there it means something different than even when Yeshua says, "I've not come but for the lost sheep of the house of Israel." So defining terms is a great question, is huge. For today, I see Israel as two different things. I see Israel as the biological descendants of Jacob, and I see Israel as those going after the heart of the Father. That's how I see it. But if you see it different, I will still fellowship with you.
Rich, excuse me. I'm sorry
So
to
that was
bother
a pretty succinct answer, I think, for the question that I was given.
Rich, sorry.
I got a text from Jeremy, so I just read that off of the text real quick.
Talk about replacement theology that replaced Israelites.
That the believers in Messiah have replaced Israelites. Okay.
Church, maybe it's that term.
Sure. So let's define that. The replacement theology is depending upon which brand of Catholicism or post-Catholicism you are, you have taken genetic Israel's place because you are special and he has deemed you special. So that is an error. But at the same time, if a goy, a Gentile, which is the nice way of translating goy, has given themselves to the commandments of the Father and the testimony of Yeshua, and a naturalized Israeli is out rejecting and being a humanist and doing all the things that are popular in the world, then I would agree that one will replace the other. Not will replace, because both could make it in, but one will make it in and one will not.
Exactly.
But I don't think that somehow does away with all the prophecies that are yet to be fulfilled for natural Israel, as if now they've been transferred to the quote-unquote church. I think that's silliness.
So who is natural?
Genetic Israel. DNA Israel, like natural DNA Israel. Which, if you talk to some people, then, all of our DNA is mixed and matched so much that all of us could probably claim to be Israel, or we could claim to be Goy, and that goes for the Israelites as well. So there's a lot of mixing and matching going on by this point. But, he did scatter the tribes around the world, so that makes sense.
Still have questions about the DNA part. The DNA testing is very popular now. I have a friend who is in close to something like Yahad, and people were gathering in a soup cut, and he just said, I just don't feel comfortable with this cultural part. And she said, I don't have any Jewish flesh at all. So I don't know, that part of it I still feel like I just don't get how that's determined on like the genetic part of Israel. And what about joining yourself to the faith of Abraham and following Yeshua Messiah? I totally don't get the replacement theology part, but trying to get a handle on who we're talking about here, who we talk about the true Israel.
Well, let me ask you this. Was Ruth Israel? Yeah. Ruth. Was Ruth Israel, in your opinion?
No, she became.
Okay, at the end of her life, was Ruth Israel?
Yes.
Okay, so at the end of a Goy's life, can they be Israel?
Yes.
Okay, was Absalom Israel?
Yes.
At the end of his life, was he Israel?
No.
I can get a handle of the sojourners that were in. It's the ones like we talked about earlier that have the DNA. They don't call upon the name of Yahweh at all. They're not born of spirit. What would you say is the covenant that Yahweh still has with whatever these people's little bit of DNA they have?
Sure.
They don't recognize them at all.
Right, okay, what's the covenant? I'm repeating the questions they're asking me to. So what was the covenant that Yahweh had with the people who were natural Israel that did not do what he asked them to do, right? That's what you're asking. I think it's the same, but coming from a different place as anybody. So first of all, you've got to remember that when the covenant was given, it wasn't just Israel that was there. It was the mixed multitude that was there as well. Okay, so the covenant wasn't just given to Israel. It was given to Israel, the mixed multitude, who is obviously is going to get assimilated into cultural Israel. There's no way the things that you did from your other culture probably have at least some tie to paganism, or they're going to look different, and that culture is mostly pagan. So even if they weren't pagan, they're going to feel pagan, and then you're starting to worship Yahweh and follow him. And so you're just going to slide over and start doing those things. they're going to have a kippah and they're going to do the wedding, and then your daughter is going to marry one of their sons, or your son is going to marry one of the daughters, and it's just going to go that way because now you've left Egypt with them. So the covenant was given to Israel proper, but it was also given to a mixed multitude that decided to live that way. So let's do away with the idea that it was only given to Israel proper. It wasn't. It was given to those who were going to fit inside of the society of Israel proper, but follow him correctly. So from that understanding, it doesn't matter if I take the DNA test. And if you take one of those, don't do the one where they give your DNA rights away. And I'm going to follow him the best I know how. And I'm going to continue to try to know better and better, which is why we're on this journey in the first place. I'm not okay with just knowing him and having a Christmas tree up in my house, you know. But did I love him when I had a Christmas tree up in my house? Yes, I did. I would do everything I could for him, but I had these things that were pagan that had not fallen off of me. And guess what? I still have things that I don't even know what they are. Mindsets, ways of thinking, ways of understanding that are still there, which is why it's constantly going and growing and growing and growing. So is it replacement? No. Does DNA Israel always have a special place in Yah's heart? Yes. Are a large number of them going to see the light about the Messiah at the end of this age? I believe so. Although if you don't believe so, I will still fellowship with you. You know,
It's the resurrection of the dead.
Yes.
All Israel, we have a set idea in our minds that saved me. It's not correct. Rescue from death through the resurrection, everybody is going to be resurrected. So, and be judged. So there's one way that all Israel will be saved.
Yes. So, yes, Jackson's saying our idea of salvation is not necessarily, you know, the Western Christian mindset of salvation is not necessarily completely biblically accurate. And that there's going to be the resurrection of the dead and everyone will be raised up. And then there's, you know, the judgment and all of that. So, yes, sir.
I just wanted to add a thought to what she has and also what Jackson said.
Okay, speak up.
I just wanted to add a thought on what the previous questions that were asked. I've always had this idea that as a promised son of promise, that Yeshua was that son of promise, and that he is Israel, and that we are only part of Israel through him. So even back in the day when he was David, he was saying things like, "You should not leave my soul in Sheol." So it's kind of like, you know, anyone, like the speaker earlier today said, anyone seeking to do the will of the Father, hoping in that resurrection was, you know, was through Yeshua, even though Yeshua had not come to be yet, or had not been born yet, and died on the cross yet. That even back then, it was still through the Messiah in the mindset of the people that now live the way that live forever. And then also to add a thought to what Jackson was saying, is that Isaiah 65:11, it mentions that, so I put it up here. It says, but it says, "And ye are those forsaking Yahweh, who are forgetting my holy mountain, who are sitting in the way for Gad, a table, who are filling for many gesture." He speaks of Gad and he foreign gods, but the word Gad is actually just
Sure, sure. Yes, sir.
I'd like to go on what Jackson said a minute ago, if this is okay.
No, go ahead. This is what we do.
Jackson pointed out that our definition of saved can be confusing. One thing is that we put a religious term on it, which in the mind of most Christians is that it can only mean eternal life. If you all had a minute, I would be glad to show you how that's not the subject. Because when a person uses a term, he usually uses it in the same manner consistently, or at least has that possible meaning, correct? I mean, if I'm going to use a term and talk to you about it, no matter what it is, you're going to know that that's a part of the definition. And so to find the definition of what Paul was using for the term say, you need to go back to Romans 9, because he very clearly defines the definition. The only thing is that when you read it in English, the clear definition totally dissipates, because we have already been told what the word save means in our mind. You go back to Romans 9, he does a quote, and his quote gives you the hint. I'll try to pull it up here. He quotes Isaiah. He says, Isaiah also says, and I haven't gotten there yet, so I'm going to do a good quote. And I have on my glasses. Romans 9:27 says, Isaiah also says concerning Israel, though the number of the children of Israel be as the sand of the sea, the remnant will be saved. So we have a word there. It's the word sozo in Greek. The question is, what does Isaiah say? Because if you find out what Isaiah says in Hebrew, you will get the definition for the word say. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because
10:22, Isaiah.
read 10:22 to me.
Okay. For though your people, O Israel, be as the sand of the sea, yet a remnant of them shall return, a decisive end overflowing with righteousness.
Okay. The thing is that the Greek word in the Septuagint for return, which is the word shuv, has been placed into the text as sozo. So salvation, in the way Paul is using it in this text, is to return. Okay, it's the same thing as repentance. You know, returning, teshuvah. We're familiar with that form of the word shuv. Okay, so if you're looking beforehand here, he's quoting Hosea. And the Hosea passage, it's Hosea 1. It's talking about both Ephraim and Judah returning together, becoming one. It's right there in the text. So I'm not making this up.
I'll read it.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which is not measured nor counted. And it shall be in the place where it was said to them, you are not my people, yet shall be called, you are the sons of the living El.
Okay, what we're dealing with there is that even Hosea had a quote. They could have used Hosea as though the people number of the children of Israel be as the sand of the sea. What they did is they brought in two witnesses. He brought in Isaiah, who quotes that, and he brought in Hosea, which is talking about the return of the northern kingdom. So they are a united passage. In fact, if you go back and read in the context of Isaiah, in Isaiah 10, you'll also find out it's talking about the return of the northern kingdom. Now, go 2 chapters further, which are not in the text. There's actually several references here. But you go to Romans 11:25, and it says, thus all Israel shall be saved. It needs to have the same terminology put in. Thus all Israel will return. It's talking about repentance. It's not talking about eternal life. And so that's why we're getting the confusion in this passage, and why we're, trying to deal with it, is that it seems to us to be talking about eternal life, which is a definition that's been imposed upon the text. Because the word saved, you can be saved from a heart attack. You can be saved from the boogeyman. You can be saved from all kinds of things. The question is what are we saved from? And in this case, it's showing that we're saved from dispersion. And so it's talking about the return of Israel.
Cool.
That's a gem.
Yeah.
Might I add something into that too?
Yes, go ahead. But you got to speak up because they can't hear us.
Yes. Just to piggyback on what you were talking about earlier. When you talked about Mount Sinai and you talked about the mixed multitude. Keep in mind
that when everybody there said all the Yahweh has said, we will do. That included the mixed multitude. So from that point, that they made that statement, just like in the root, when she said, your people shall be my people, your Elohim mine. I will go wherever you go, and wherever you lodge, I will lodge. They ceased to become the mixed multitude anymore. She ceased to become a Moabite. She became a part of the nation. Now that doesn't mean that mixed multitude didn't have issues. Because if you look at the text, Yahweh was burning them people up every time they looked up. Because of the issue. So remember that mixed multitude who received the Torah on Shavuot, they were part of the nation. At Mount Sinai, they ceased to be a mixed multitude.
To support what you're saying there, Ezekiel 37:16 says, as for you, son of man, take a stick for yourself and write on it, for Judah and the children of Israel, his companions. It is not just for Judah. And then take another stick and write on it for Joseph and the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Israel, his companions. Then you read in Ephesians 2, we go to it that quick. Let me see if I think it's about, yeah, it goes on and says, you once were Gentiles. It doesn't say you are Gentiles. See, Gentiles is something you can get over. And it says, but you have been drawn into the promises and, well, I'm doing a terrible job of it. So, let me see. This is 2. I'm pretty sure it is.
The scripture.
Okay, here it is. It says that you were without Christ, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel and strangers from the covenants of promise, having no hope and without God in the world. Okay, and then you go on further. You got to skip a few verses here. It says, but now in Christ, you who once were far off have been brought near by the blood of Yeshua. So you are no longer strangers and foreigners. Right. Yeah, there's where you're getting. It says, now therefore you are no longer strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens, and with the saints and the members of the household of Yah. So it's something we get over.
Sure. All right. And from now on, though, if you have a question or a comment, let's get up here so that everybody can hear it, because nobody can hear on the internet. Well, they were having trouble even hearing you, although you could probably unmute and just talk if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that.
All right. Anyone else? Any other questions? Anything or comments on that? Any other crazy subject? Yes, sir.
I'm frantically looking, but in one of the
Stand up over here. Stand up right here.
One of the demons that were one of the watchers that were in the garden, well, not in the garden, but deceiving mankind, that's flipped over to the daughters of men. This was going back to a previous question.
Okay.
Was Gadriel was one of those watchers that flipped
From Enoch.
And it also says, and he's the one that deceived Eve. And so if you
That
break down
Chawa, right? Not Eve. Eve's a goddess. Eve's a goddess.
All right.
Chawa. Yeah.
But if you break down that Gadriel, you have the word God. So was God in the garden deceiving Hawa at that point?
Well, I don't know the etymology of the word Gadriel, but to me, it doesn't. It's not God. It's Gadri. So Gadur. So whatever the GDR there is because E ending is my something. My something is L, or L is my something. So whatever,
The exact reference.
whatever that Gimel Dalet Resh word is, I'd have to look it up, and I could later, but we got plenty of time. We can talk till 6 a.m. like some other people did last night. So that might not be God, is what I'm saying. It might not. Yeah, it could be the GDR rather than just the GDR.
One that you see. E.
Sure. Yes. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Online, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. Anybody online have a question or anything? Yes, ma'am.
Can I just take a comment?
If you come up here, stand next to the mic, you can.
Yeah, that's it's all right.
Right here.
I just kind of want to bring us back to the idea of the Yahad. I grew up in Cameroon, West Africa, and just talking about how the Hebrew culture is everywhere. We kind of grew up in a community, in a Yahad-like community, even though we didn't know what it was. There was an unspoken hierarchy where the children looked to the elders, the older people, as the wise people, and they're taught to respect the elders in that manner and respect their parents in the way that the Torah teaches respect to the parents. And it was an awful thing not to have that respect for your elders, and just the unspoken rules that we kind of have strayed away from. Reminds me of what the Yahad is all about. Just you grow up learning these rules and you don't know why, you don't know how, but it's just the way that the community is set up. We take care of each other. If my mom didn't have any salt, she could go next door and knock on the neighbor's door and they would give her some salt. Or the neighbor had some extra potatoes, they would come, and if we didn't have any food, we could just go next door and eat for the day. So it was kind of a community, and we kind of strayed away from that and are not in that kind of fellowship anymore. But just that reminds me of what the Yahad, or the idea of sharing everything, the idea of being in a community is.
Okay, great. Yes, that's a good observation. And just real quick, Jeremy looked up the Dar, and it means to fence or enclose. So then Gadriel would be Elohim is my fence, or Elohim is my protection by implication. So it isn't from God. It's another word, which I thought it might be, but I wasn't sure.
But that's the one that the CP.
Yes. So then Elohim wasn't his fence any longer. Yes. Anybody else? Did you have something? Yes, go ahead. You got your mic on?
Oh, 1 second.
There you go. Just to piggyback on what Louisette was talking about, and how their communities, whether they be in Cameroon, whether they be in Jafure, even in the United States of America, that were Yahad-like in nature. I mean, the communities that I was raised in, very similar. You didn't have something, you went to your neighbor who specialized in that thing, and they gave that to you. Your stuff was their stuff. But also there were consequences to that as well. When there was discipline to be meted out in that community, guess what? It got meted out. Trust me, I was on the end of many of it. And then you stumbled home. Guess what? You got it when you got home. Pretty much the same way. And that's the definite, that's what it means to be in community Yahad. I mean, there are a lot of enclaves right here in this country, right here in this community here, that are pretty much the same way.
Yeah, and the world's way of thinking right now is the opposite of that. Hey, there's bad people out there. Get a garage that locks, and then get a fence around your house, and now it's so convenient. You know, I've got a 7-Eleven 90 seconds up the road, I feel bad not hopping in my car and going getting a stick of butter instead of asking my neighbor, you know what I mean? Or whatever it is. So it's the way that our society has moved is like just automatically pushed you against that, even if it's not some diabolical scheme of the enemy. It's just how everything has happened. So it's opposite. You got to retrain yourself and think differently.
And some of us not so hard because we grew up in there.
Yes.
What we have to do is go back to it.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say with
You got to come up here.
talking about this, Rich and I talked a little bit about having a community near you and wonder if we can brainstorm some ways with people that are online and all over the world. A lot of us are in the South. How can we flesh out living in Yahad when we meet virtually most of the time?
Well,
I don't know if there's an answer.
I will FedEx you a stick of butter if you need a stick of butter,
I
okay?
will send you some fried chicken.
It's kind of like,
Yeah, I have an idea about that.
it's called the connectional system.
It's called the what?
It's called a connectional system.
Connectional system.
You're connected by telephone, internet, and there is a place for central information that you can call and get the information or talk to anybody that's in the connection. So I actually call it the connection.
Right.
And that's one of the things I strive for, because we're using social media to get this going.
Sure.
And everybody is connected, and I saved up those people that have been, and it's over 1,100 people in the last few years.
Matt spoke to the vision of the connection you talked about last night. Would you like to? Sounds fun. A little bit.
You got to come up here then. Okay, so Jackson was talking about being connected. We have over 1,100 people that have some sort of connection with the Yahad. It's harder to be connected over the internet, but I guess Matthew had an idea.
Well, basically what Lee's talking about is after college, I had worked at a job working for Sprint, and I had still in Christianity. I had a lady that was at the church that I was attending to that. I didn't know her, but I knew who she was, and she didn't know me at all because I hadn't gone to her church very long. And she came into the Sprint store, and she had bought a cell phone with my coworker when I'm standing right there. And I told Lee that, a lot of times when you go to a store and the sales guy doesn't know, like, the answer to your question, a lot of times they just make up something on the spot. And so I heard my coworker lie to her several times. It wasn't a big deal, but it was just like, there needs to be some way to like connect people so that, hey, if somebody needs a cell phone, I would have been your cell phone guy. And if you needed a car, then, maybe the guy down the street would be car guy. So I actually created a website called My Christian Connection. And I tried to get tons of churches to allow me to talk to different people and stuff, and nobody was interested. Yeah. And it was like really kind of frustrating to hear that like people were not willing to be connected. Like, I wanted it to be so, hey, if I'm on a trip, my car breaks down and I'm in Atlanta, I can get on the website and find out who was my Christian connection in Atlanta. But it just never took off because people were so divided and people were so like, they didn't want you to like talk to people because they wanted to be in full control of everything. It's just, it never worked. But like ultimately it seems like that's what they had in the first century with the people, that some of the books call Essenes or whatever, that were going, and they would go into a house and it said that nothing was their own possession. If you needed a towel, you had a towel. If you needed food, you had food. It's like somehow, if the body of Messiah is going to be the body of Messiah, you have to be able to get that back somehow.
Sure. He already said he'd give you one. Yeah, I already took you to Walmart, buddy. Hey, it's the Sabbath. No buying or selling. Okay, brother. Okay.
Hey, I have something.
Now, hold on one second. Let me add on to that, though, to give it a little bit of a flip side, because I've been in a large organization, and really this organization and organizations like this differ from large Pentecostal evangelical organizations, because evangelical is now just means we use professional business marketing strategies to get more people into your doors. That's what it means. So then you have so many people coming into your doors, and who comes into your doors? The guy that sells cell phones for the sole purpose of getting in a connection like that, so he can just. You know what I'm saying? So
That wasn't what I was saying.
No, I know.
What I was saying is that they didn't want to be a part of the website where people could come up with stuff.
Yeah, no,
They
absolutely.
want to keep those resources.
They want to keep those resources, but I'm just looking at the other side of it. It's not always just that, but it certainly would have been partially that. But there's a bunch of give. But if we have organizations where you're legitimately part of the organization and you are breaking up with these people and hanging out, and even over the internet, and people to know you over a period of time, then yeah, I think your idea would work like $1 million. I think it would just be awesome. But it'd be harder to go in just a regular state of affairs.
Yeah, so let's talk unity for a minute.
Unity, are you on here? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I am on. Daniel and I have had conversations, many, and I eventually just came to this shocking but not so shocking conclusion when you think about it, that most of the problem is that we're not even reading the same stuff. So if we were going to, for example, talk about Winston Churchill, you would probably read books about Winston Churchill, right? Or you might get his autobiography or his memoirs and read about him, and you could find out an awful lot. But when we're talking about the scriptures, talking about the word, talking about the history of these things, you can ask some people, what's the book of Enoch? They'll be like, well, I have it, but I just don't read it. It's a table piece. Or they'll say, have you ever read Josephus? Do you even know who Philo or Eusebius or Hegesippus or any of these people are? They don't. Jubilees, Tovit. Do you know that there's even a Septuagint that's over 1,000 years old, that's about 1,000 years older than the Masoretic that we use? They don't know this stuff, and I'm a number 5 on the Enneagram, so I like to hoard knowledge. But I mean, these things are general, or should be. They're accessible to everybody. These are not hidden. You can go find Enoch. You can go read it and see what everybody's talking about. You can read Josephus and make your own conclusions, but we don't even start in the same place. So some people have a 66 books idea of canon, and you're not going to get anywhere with that. Unfortunately, we're not on the same level, I think Frank might say, for one reason or another.
Yeah, I would say that paradigm determines thought process and intake determines paradigm, right? The way your thought paradigm determines your thought process, how you're going to think and react and do things. And then your intake into your brain and your heart is what's going to determine that paradigm. So for sure, if somebody's reading a different book than you, then they are going to get to a different conclusion than you get to. I mean, you and me read the same books, right, Governor? And I'm right on everything, and you're wrong, right?
Well, hey, no, I see it the other way.
Right, exactly. So even when we're reading the same books, we don't get there. Let alone, like you're saying, if we're not even reading the same books, it's just going to be.
But one place to start would be, though, that we all read the same books and can say, hey, look, you want to find out about a calendar that's possibly older, or you want to find out more about the fallen angels, the watchers and things like that. Enoch and Jubilees is a place to start. I mean,
sure, but you're going against a millennia of being taught that canon is the only thing that should be read. And so anytime you're attacking the general and specific guidelines of a person's faith, they feel like subconsciously at least, and maybe consciously, that if you're able to dent any of those at all, then their whole house is a house of cards. So they're going to fight to the nail. They would rather go to the Bible bookstore and get the seven steps to prosperity or whatever. So I think you don't leave that. I think that out of all the books, like Jackson was saying earlier, the Naz Acts really helps a lot in showing how to talk to people who are not ready to hear all you've got to say.
Good point.
He is really strategic, Peter is, in how he goes about doing that. And you don't lead with, hey, you should stop eating ham at Christmas, while fixing your fridge on a Saturday. You know what I mean? That's not what you lead with.
And I learned that at Facebook University. That's exactly what you do.
Yeah. So, hold on one second, Daniel. Yes. Yeah, go up here.
I was thinking about what Governor said. People are not reading, they don't have access to the resource, or they're available, but they don't know where to go. They don't know what to look for. And I was thinking about how awesome the Yahad's website is, that there's access to that. However, anyone that I have shared the Yahad's page with to show them, hey, you can get information, they will not even click it because of the label we put on ourselves. They will not click it because it says a scene. If it said Nazarite, they would click it and read it and maybe learn something. But because it says a
Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
We're in process of doing that now.
We're in the process of changing some things.
That's awesome.
Okay.
But I see it with a lot of different groups that maybe have some great resources. They would like to connect with other groups, but because of the label they give themselves, they're, putting out a label that other groups are like, oh, well, we know what that is, so we're not going to click it, instead of something, I don't know, more inviting.
Sure.
But that's where the evangelist professional marketing comes in. If we could get a professional marketer to help all us groups come up with a good name that everybody would love.
Well, I think too that if I was running into that problem, then I would stop giving them the website to click on. I would just send them the PDF I wanted them to read.
That's what I've done.
You know what I mean? Yeah, switch it up a little bit. Yeah, you probably learned, and so yeah, yes, Daniel. And then over here, yes.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, just to piggyback on what you were saying, Rich, and this is so true, and you're right on the money, because I grew up pretty much the same way. These denominations and churches, they hoard resources. And probably one of the reasons why you were having trouble, Matt, is because when you went to these other churches, they're like, heck no, I'm not going to let you come in here and put anything together, because I want that stuff. I want all those resources for my community, my people. And, the church that I was raised in, it was known, it still is known for doing exactly that, for corralling all of the doctors and lawyers and judges and people that they have in there, whether it be business owners. I mean, somebody even told me, can you believe this, Rich? Somebody told me the other day that our buddy out there in Los Angeles, Bishop Blake, is not getting involved in land speculation. So when I heard that, it's exactly what you were saying. They're hoarding resources for their people only. And that's not what Yahweh said for us to do. So.
We've heard that here this weekend, and I think sometimes we get our focus askew.
Right. Okay. So for those of you that didn't hear that, she said that sometimes people saying the old saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And we need to get love Elohim and love your neighbor correct in our own lives so that we can better share the good news. I think that's a good point.
Yeah, I agree. This is Governor here. I agree, but what does that mean? That could be a whole forum itself. What is love? What does love or your Elohim mean? What does that mean?
What is love?
What is love?
Yeah. Why don't you come up with an easy one, like what's the meaning of life or something?
Right. So, but we know we need to do these things. Unfortunately, we have to start somewhere. We have to start somewhere, and for some of us, it might take us longer to get there. I'm not going to say that, the Messianic movement to me is lacking in love. I don't care where you go. You know, at least that's in my.
Well, I think that every organization is lacking in love, right? Yeah, and you're going to have a remnant of people in each organization that are getting that, and a lot of them that aren't.
Agreed. Fair enough.
It's been my experience.
It's been my experience that a lot of people, they desire to walk in love. They desire to love until they're challenged. When they're challenged on a pet doctrine, when they're challenged on behavior, or when they're challenged on anything, you see love go right out the window. For example, we have a governor and I have a friend. They used to have a meeting in their house all the time, and they fell out. The group split out over doctrine, over simple things. And she really came to understand that there has to be something that unites us other than love. It can be in conjunction with love, but it has to be something else to unite us other than love, because she thought that if she just loved everybody, things would work out. And she is over there now depressed because she realized it don't work that way, because everybody has a different definition or a different understanding of love, because we're not reading the same books. We're not having the same understanding. We're not coming at this from the same place. And so at the end of the day, she was disappointed.
Yeah. And she needs to read the 5 love languages.
Yes.
If you haven't read that book, that's a great book. The 5 love languages. It tells about how other people receive love different than you. And if you're trying to give it in a way that you automatically subconsciously try to give it in the way that you receive it. But if your spouse is different than you, you can be doing that all day long, and they're wondering why you love them.
Yeah. But
Book recommendations from
you can see in the council.
Come on now. In the Council of
Laodicea.
Yes.
They have a list on there of the 16 or some odd things, but they have a list of the approved reading in their congregation. So you can see, even by our discussion today on what things to read, why they came up with such a book, such a list. Now, we wouldn't approve of their list, of course, in our understanding, but they came up with a list. So you can see where that would be going, that it would either restrict or increase the things that you would read that would be approved by the majority. And then you get into the shame and the guilt type thing. If you don't read our books, you're not part of us. So, if you don't have our understanding, we'll say that you're not part of us. So you can see why Laodicea came to be.
Yeah, and that goes back to, and I'm done with teaching. I think probably Jackson has it on YouTube or something about the divine order of operation, and the idea that what the Bible, the 66 books, used to be is not the same thing that they are today. Meaning today they are, in most people's minds, the inspired, inerrant, infallible Word of God. Everything in it is useful for, rebuking, correcting, training in righteousness, et cetera, but that's not what they ever were. They were a collection of books that the Catholic Church decided could be read during the Mass, right? But since those are the only books they allowed to be read during Mass, it starts to form this thing where nowadays you can try to show somebody, hey, that's not right. They're going to show you in another book of the Bible where it is right, and everything has to line up and be perfect, and that's not why they were even made. And so to me, that's incorrect. But,
Council did, I believe it was 329 AD. So in a sense, that was before.
No, it wasn't 329. 325 was Nicaea.
Which one? 360.
Yeah.
363.
Yeah.
363.
Nicaea.
It wasn't until the Catholic Church came.
Well, the Catholic Church never said these are the canon until the Council of Trent, 16th century. But anyway, that's into that. We're getting off on that. So okay. So all right. Anything else? Any other questions? We're already over time, but hey, we got nowhere else to go. It's Shabbat.
I have a comment about the exclusivity thing. So,
okay.
How many amateur radio people are in this room?
Amateur radio people?
Yes, there's a reason why I say it.
Ham radio.
Ham radio.
Ham radio, amateur radio station.
Okay, so yeah, me and Lee are part of something quite exclusive now. We're not cutting you out. There is a way you can do it, but you have to study. You have to take the tests. You might have to pay some money somewhere along the way to get some equipment.
Is there a kosher version, like lamb radio?
Oh wow, you know, that's a great point.
Spotter activation or
Okay.
But so the point though that we're part of a club. We did pay our dues. In other words, we did take the test. We went and we took the test. We passed the test. I'm a general, which means I just have a lot of privileges, or more privileges than someone else on the radio waves. But you know, so is it wrong necessarily to say you are not a part if you don't do something, or if you're not willing to invest, if you're not willing to throw down, put some skin in the game, as it were?
Sure.
I think it's
No, it's not wrong. Matter of fact, I think it's wrong if you do the opposite. If you just say everybody can go in, even and not do what everybody else did to get in. That's not justice.
Yeshua himself.
You're good. You're good. All right. Anyone else? We can talk about anything. This is what's cool about the forum. This is every week, every Sabbath at 2 p.m. They advertise it. They give you a little code. Or you can just click the link on the Facebook page, and we do this every week. Except for I usually don't have so many distractions in the room when I'm doing it. No questions. It can be a silly question or whatever. It doesn't matter.
Can you fry chicken?
Yeah, I can fry some chicken. You know what? My specialty though is Mongolian goose.
Oh,
it is after you bless it. All right, nothing else? All right, well, thank you guys for coming. We'll be back up next week, right? Same bat time, same bat channel? Yeah. All right. Yes. Shabbat shalom, all you internet people.
That's for the local people.
Oh, for the local people.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.